Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And welcome to your last off-season episode of Talking Giants before we hit a preview pod for Week 1. Justin, the Giants signed Adoree Jackson. We're going to do a mailbag. How are you?
Bobby, I'm doing really good, man. Thanks for everybody for enjoying the ride with us this offseason through the draft, through free agency, through the dog days of summer, and through training camp. It's been a lot of fun, but dude, there's nothing more fun than when football comes on and all you got to do is sit back and watch it, and the storylines write themselves, the talking points write themselves, and hopefully we win some football games this year, man. So I'm doing well. We have some fun things planned on JM Football this week. We have a fantasy football draft sponsored by Captain Morgan this Wednesday that I hope you can watch at 4 p.m. And then Bobby's going to be flying up to New York. We will be watching Thursday Night Football, the kickoff to the NFL season, all on JM Football. And then, of course, the debut of our new weatherman will be happening on Friday.
Yeah, so a lot to get to, and it's made possible by these special people. Before we talk about this Giants signing Adoree Jackson move, these people are Giants Kev. I think his name is Kevin, but he's a big Giants fan. Using little context clues. We got Conway West, not Conway Twitty, Conway West, and then Brett Moore, as in I'm thankful for more Patreons. Justin, who are these people?
These wonderful people went to patreon.com/Talking Giants. Here's the real question. Is Patreon going to know before the general public and the world of who the weatherman is?
I'll say yes because no, we're gonna because I don't feel like Patreon's spoiling it, so we're just gonna tweet it out like tomorrow. Your new weatherman. I already sent you a demo video for the new weatherman. I'm gonna work out some kinks in it, and I did the goodbye Danny King video today too. So Justin. Thank you, Patreon. Anyways.
Yeah, thank you, Patreon. But I mean, the Patreon is going to get the chance to see the debut of the new weatherman before anybody else.
Absolutely. But you also have to listen to the preview pod on podcast apps too because of the yearly Week 1 intro.
This is true.
Let's get into the damn episode. Giants signed Adoree Jackson, Justin. This is a move that every mailbag that we've had since the draft is over, Justin, where I've came on here and said, man, the guy who makes the most sense is Adoree Jackson, not because he was a New York Giant or anything that was really going against him. But everyone told us that, nope, there's bad blood. They don't, or, they're not happy with they're not happy with how Adoree's year went last year. But the Giants brought him back, and to me, this was a much-needed move. Now, we still haven't seen the contract details, which is freaking nuts 4 days later.
They only have $2 million left in cap space, so I really wonder what the contract is.
Yeah, and the move is official, so like it's, hopefully it's cheaper than what I thought it would be when we did those mailbags. But it made sense. Now, we'll get into all of it, Justin. Adoree Jackson is coming off of a down year, but on these mailbag pods, I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. I've been saying, sign Adoree Jackson or go after a guy like Greg Van Roten. They got both those guys, so I'm happy they did these moves. But it also I tweeted it out. These aren't like these feel good moves because the reason the Giants need to do this is because guys they have drafted have been disasters, and we need these spots to be filled by vets who have played in the NFL.
But credit to them, I will give them credit first for Greg Van Roten and Adoree Jackson, and you've been calling for Jakob Johnson since Carmen Bricillo was hired, so credit to you there too. The snip snap Michael Scott of his
he's
story
on
continues.
The team.
He's on the team. Even if he gets cut, he's on the team. I think he's back on the practice squad as Miles Boykin was cut from the practice squad. Anyway, so credit to you for the three major moves, the three underrated moves, I should say, you've been advocating for this entire offseason. All three of them have happened. But good for the Giants, too, on doing this, because even though, it's not great that some of these draft picks like Josh Azudu at guard hasn't developed, Cordell Flott at corner hasn't developed. So that's not good on the Giants, but good on the Giants for not being stubborn and just running those guys out there that they know are unplayable, but because they're third-round draft picks, we have to play them. We have to see what we have in them. They kind of know what they have in them. They kind of know that it's not good. Credit to them for, you need to get through a season, because we've seen plenty of times, and we've seen plenty of Giants teams that have holes and spots, multiple holes and spots on their team, and they don't acknowledge it. And it helps tank a season.
You can't have disaster starters at offensive line and corner, right? That's why those two guys stood out to me. Not because they're the best free agents available, but they were the ones that made the most sense at those potentially disaster spots for the Giants. I will say, with the corner, Adoree was the one that made the most sense to me all along.
Now, I will say, though, like I was one where, even before we had beat reporters coming on here saying, yeah, there's some animosity here. I mean, as a fan, if you watched the latter parts of last year, of course you could tell that there should have been animosity that this Giants coaching staff had against Adoree Jackson. There should have been. Because, especially, let's remove the coaching staff for a second. Me in the stands, Bobby Skinner, where it's cold every game, it's raining every game, I'm spending my hard-earned money watching a shit football team, and you have Adoree Jackson out there, who I loved, by the way. His 2021 was underrated, and his 2022 was awesome in the same Wink Martindale system that was in 2023. So I loved Adoree Jackson, and it's rare that you have a free agent last throughout the entire portion of his contract. So I will say that. But last year, that effort was terrible. And I'm like, it pissed me the freak off, man. It pissed me off as a fan. Now, distance and a desperation, I think, have healed some wounds here, where nobody came knocking at Adoree Jackson's door and nobody was answering the Giants' calls at cornerback this offseason and this summer. So distance and separation, I think, did heal some wounds. But I do want to acknowledge that the end of last year was not awesome for Adoree Jackson.
No, absolutely not. But on the flip side of that, the positive is that he didn't have a down year because he lost athleticism, right? We're not talking about a guy who, he had a down year because he's just lost it. He doesn't have it anymore. That does happen at the corner spot. But out of all the corners that were out there and the names that people threw around, Jackson was the one that made the sense. Stephon Gilmore was never going to happen. One, you saw the contract he got of $10 million, and he wanted to play on a Super Bowl, a team that's more of a contender than the Giants. Now, he went to the Vikings, but you knew you were going to have to spend money on Stephon Gilmore coming off of that year that he had for Dallas last year. Xavier Howard has off-field issues. He wasn't very good. He's older. Adoree is the one who made sense. He has it athletically still. He's young, compared to free agent corners available. He turns 29 in September, and obviously, he's been with this team the past 3 years with that, 3-year, $39 million contract. So we couldn't have this disaster spot at cornerback too. Like last year was a disappointment for him after 2 years of outstanding football. Not just good football, outstanding football. Good. Where, he was I think I voted him Defensive Player of the Year in 2021. 2022 was just nuts. Last year he gave up the 8th most yards in football for corners, 3rd most in YAC, which just talks about the lack of tackling. And you could tell he was making a business decision at the end of the season, and then that, all came to a head when he gave that 80-yard Puka Nacua catch and run. But like I said, the flip side of that is he didn't lose anything athletically. So you wonder exactly what it is, but he's also going to move into a cornerback 2 role. This was a must that they, I was dreading going into this year because Cordell Flott and Nick McLeod would have been pick-on players, where offenses would have said, we're going into this week, we're going to pick on those 2 guys. Whoever they're lining those guys up on, get ready to have a big game because we are going after them. So now you have Adoree Jackson who slides into a lesser cornerback 2 role coming off a down year, and it takes a little pressure off of Deonte Banks as well too. Who we got to see prove himself as a cornerback 1 role. But he's turning 29, and the 2 years before last was elite production, right? Completion percentage 55th, 53, yards per game 23 yards per game, 33 yards per game. Forced incompletion rate 16%, 15%, where last year the completion percentage went up 12 points to 65. Yards per game went up 21 yards to 54, and then the forced incompletion rate went down 6 points. So a needed move. Again, not this heartwarming feel-good move. Someone said that it wasn't bang, it was mild pop, and I actually agreed with that. That's my reaction. Mild pop.
Pop goes the weasel. I hope we see a motivated Adoree Jackson. Because like you said, he's not in his 30s. He's 29.
I think he thought he was going to get more than what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, and there should be, like, Adoree Jackson should be approaching this year being like, I am going to be this team's cornerback too, where he could be a free agent after this year and not get the same payday that he got, during his first go around after Tennessee released him, I believe. He's not going to get the same money that he did the first time like he did with the Giants, but he could be 30 years old, and you see quality veterans get paid all the time. And if anything, I think NFL teams may start to prioritize paying some of these veterans at corner because of how much of a crapshoot it is at drafting cornerbacks. So every team needs good corners. If Adoree Jackson has a solid year, he can hit the free agent open market, get paid, whether that is by the Giants or whether that's by another team. I'm hoping we get a motivated Adoree Jackson. My only question is I wonder if that's going to come week 1. Is that going to come probably by week 2 or week 3?
I'd expect him to be starting week 2.
Yeah, so I just wonder what that looks like week 1 against the Vikings, because this literally just happened, and I don't know if we can get ramped up fully for 60 to 65 snaps against the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, and Adoree said as much. Like, my expectation is him starting week 2. If he plays week 1, I'm happy about it. But my expectation is him to be the starter week 2. But I just think Adoree didn't realize how low his market was going to be. When you look at all the factors of some effort issues at the end of the year,
injury,
he is getting older. Again, injury. He's missed games in all the last 5 years. Now, last year was actually his lowest games missed in that 5-year span. So, I think he didn't realize how low his market was going to be. I thought it would have taken like $5 million to get Adoree Jackson, right? When we did those mailbag episodes, I thought it would cost like $5 to $6 million. But I mean, we need to get the freaking details of this contract, anyways.
Yeah, because I think they need to make a corresponding move as well.
No, the corresponding was cutting Jakob Johnson. It's officially, like, it's went through the waiver.
No, but I mean they went into, before signing Adoree Jackson with like $2 million in cap space. They can't go into the season. They can't get through the season with $2 million in cap space. So I wonder what they're going to do. They need to do something.
Yeah, we'll see. Are that it on Adoree Jackson for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have more. I think we even have some more like Adoree related questions coming up later too.
All right. Well, take it away, Steve.
Mail time.
Mail time. The mail's here. Come on. Bye, guys. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Thanks, Steve, from Blue's Clues. Justin, let's get into the mail.
First question is coming from Mark Breer at MJ Breer. What will ultimately decide if this season is a success or a failure?
There's a few things. It can't be just one thing. And I like Jordan Renon's poll, and people are just like, well, it just said growth from last year. Well, it's like can't just have growth, because that isn't one. That's not quantifiable. The main thing for me, Justin, is I want to be happy with Joe Shane's 3 drafts. Now, again, to me, it's totally over for Neil, Azudu, and Flop. But just kind of going through the positions, these are the players I need to do something. Either Tyrone Tracy or Eric Gray has to be a good contributor as a running back too. Malik Neighbors needs to be a star from day one. Kayvon Thibodeau can't just be a solid number 2. He needs to be closer to great. JMS needs to be a good starter. Hyatt needs to earn number 2 spot over Slayton. Andrew Phillips needs to be a solid nickel cornerback at least year 1. Wandale needs to be more productive than what he's been. McFadden needs to show that he wasn't just a product of Wink's system next to Bobby Okereke. And we need some of the day 3 guys to become above average starters, right? So it's mainly on the draft classes. And if you get the majority of those things to happen, which that should be the expectation for draft classes, right? The only non-day 1, day 2 players I mentioned was the running backs and Mike McFadden, who's already shown some in this league, right? So I'm not asking for Trey Hawkins to become an all-pro. It's such a small ask, but you have to win 7 or more games. And in year 3, the roster you built should be able to win 7 games with the QB you deem worthy to be signed, right? I'm willing to give like a halfway mulligan on the Daniel Jones thing, but if you thought he was good enough to sign, you need to have a roster in year 3 that can win 7 freaking games. And this is a pathetic ask for this team, right? That's a very low bar. And then Brian Dable needs to control his damn building. Can't have the same bullshit as last year.
Yeah, man. Now, if you win football games, and if they win 7 or 8, I think the controlling of the building will happen. Because if you're in it, and if we're talking about things in November and December, like they aren't blown up, like they won 6 games last year, but the season was over by week 9 and week 10 because they were 2-8 and Daniel Jones tore his ACL.
It's a domino effect. The draft does well.
Yes.
The drafts do well. They win more than 7 games. And like you said, the building is in a lot more harmony because they are winning. Or at least getting close to winning.
But if they don't, and September and October, once again, is a flat-out disaster, and this is why week 1 is so important and week 2 is so important, because the week 3 and beyond schedule features some very difficult games, but weeks 1 and week 2 are winnable, and that's why we keep talking about it. If the same type of start to the season happens this year as it happened last year, and I don't care what people say, Bobby. I don't know what it was like internally because we're not in the building, but when they were 2-8, and we're sitting here saying, are the Giants going to win another game for the rest of the season? Because that's how bad it looked, like between offensive line and everything. There was heat on Brian Dable. I don't care what you say. Now, we were sitting here saying, I don't think they should fire Dable. I don't think they should fire Dable. There was heat. There were people that did want him gone. And that will happen again if it is that bad through 10 weeks, or let's just say the first 2.5 months of the season. It will get hot again. The seat will get hot.
Oh, absolutely. Now, and the seat should get hot on Joe Shane before it does Brian Dable.
But that's not how this goes in the NFL.
Yeah, but the seat, absolutely. The idea, again, you can't have what happened last year. You just can't. Like, no. You won't. There's, how many year 2s did we go in where it's like, well, this guy is extremely safe, and then it's like, nope, he's not safe because shit happens quick in the NFL. So the heat is on them. Now, I think it's extremely likely that these guys get a year 4.
I agree,
but
they should.
But if we'll see. Like, I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to be saying after this year that Joe Shane deserves a year 4.
Right.
I think Dable I will like, but I'm like, you know what? When it's a package deal, let's freaking start for it. Like, their drafts need to hit, right? I go back to my draft day speech, right, where everyone's like, well, you got to get a quarterback. You got to get a quarterback. And I said, I disagree. Or Joe Shane will get fired. I said Joe Shane will get fired because he either didn't get a quarterback or he didn't build a good roster. Because you got to do at least one after 3 years. So the bar is low, and I hate that it's freaking low. It shouldn't be this low going into year 3, but those are my success or failures, judging off of what has happened the first 2 years under this regime.
Yeah, for me, it's wins.
Yep.
For me, it's wins. I mean,
but this time the wins come from the Joe Shane draft picks, where 2022, it was the previous regime's roster that Dable got wins with.
Yeah, and also signing, having all these patch signings come in and have great impacts, like Isaiah Hodgins coming off the street, Fabian Moreau being CB2 and helping, save the season and having great next-gen stats, right?
Sure, but their best players at every single position were from the last regime.
Correct. Yeah, but you got to win football. I'm like, even Grump has come on here and said, even if they just score more points, it's still going to hurt. Like 2015, the Giants scored a lot of points in 2015, and that didn't save Tom Coughlin's job because they blew games in the fourth quarter. So you got to win football games. That's how you're going to show progress. People try and talk around it sometimes in this, with fandom or with media. Well, if they show progress in this area, that area. And you're right, but if the draft picks show progress, then they will win games. It's one of those, if A happens, then B will happen.
Yeah,
so.
Mine is a domino effect. It's like, all right, draft picks play well, they win games, the building is in right. harmony.
But to think of a more unique talking point, how about this? Wins in September and October. Not just wins, not just finishing the year off strong after you're mathematically eliminated for the playoffs, but let's be in the hunt. When we get down to December, I don't care if we're in the hunt, if we're in the hunt bracket. I would love to be there. Like make us a relevant talking point when it comes to November and December about the Giants making the playoffs. And not
don't make it
last year.
Don't make it in the hunt where we're joking about it like we are in the hunt. Like no, like actually freaking in the hunt.
Yes. Yes.
What you won 9 games 2 years ago with not your roster, and guess what? You didn't just beat up like you beat good teams. You beat that Baltimore Ravens. You beat the Jacksonville. Those are 2 playoff teams. You beat the Packers, who again that wasn't their best year, but that's still a formidable foe. They didn't just beat some bad teams that year. They went wire to wire with the Minnesota Vikings and then beat them in the playoffs. It was very different that year. So, all right, next question.
Next question is coming from Michael at AP Skirbo. With Adoree Jackson coming back and familiarity with Bowen, do you think he can pick up how to read an ad by Sunday? And Bobby Skinner. Today's episode is brought to you by Pickett. Pickett is a free bet tracker that allows you to see all of your bets in one place. The app tells you which teams, players, and bet types you are most profitable on. You want to know what I found out with Pickett? I found out, stop betting Major League Baseball. I don't know if I've won a single MLB bet. And I've even done some easy, simple stuff like Aaron Judge reach base, Juan Soto reach base. I actually am quite successful with some football bets. And you want to know why that's important? Because I work in football, and that's very helpful. Pickett is a great way to track what sports players you're up or down on. The historical context Pickett provides is invaluable, and I can say that is true. And the best thing is the app is totally free and super helpful for tracking your bets. If you want to add some more analytics to how you're betting, then Pickett is the thing for you. So download Pickett now with code JOHNBOY to get $3 or $100 sent directly to your PayPal or Venmo. What? Either scan the QR code on the screen
Pickett.
or head to Pickett.com today. JohnBoy, use code JohnBoy to get $3 or $100 sent directly to your PayPal or Venmo.
Spell
Scan
out
the
Pickett
QR
for the
code?
people.
Honestly, that's a great idea. Pickit.com today.
Remember, you don't want to be like Kenny Pickett, so you spell it this way, because Kenny Pickett sucks. Sorry, Joe. All right, Justin, next question.
Next question is coming from at Wayne Dunlap, 1979. What player has the most on the line this season in terms of what direction their career is headed? A bad season that they're replaceable, or a good season where they can become a cornerstone?
Jalen Hyatt.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he can either establish himself as a good wide receiver too, or you're just a deep threat and we're looking to improve your spot in free agency in the draft. There's a wide, and we're not a talented player, but he's got to prove himself as that wide receiver too next to Malik Neighbors.
I was thinking of Deonte Banks too.
That I thought that too, but at the same time, even if Banks is the same as last year, he's still starting in 2025.
Yeah, but I guess if you're talking about going from CB1 to going down to CB2.
Sure, but you still got to roll. Like, okay, let me put it this way. If Banks has the same year as last year, we're at pick 18, take a cornerback, right? Yeah. If Banks produces into a cornerback 1, we're at pick 18, pick a cornerback. Like, cornerback's still on the board, right? Where if Jalen Hyatt progresses into a wide receiver 2, we're really not investing much in wide receiver next offseason.
No.
Not to say I would want wide receiver at the first round pick next year anyways, but like you'd need to bring back Slayton or find someone else on free agency. JMS could be on this list too.
Yeah.
If he has a bad year, they're going to sign. They will probably sign a center in free agency if he has a bad year.
Basically, it feels like the 2023 draft class is on
this
list.
That's the natural answers for this, because it's the second year for that draft class. The third year of the 2022 class, we like Neil Azudu and Flawed, it's over. Kayvon's a starter. Wandale's a starter.
You can even throw, if you want to get more unique, you can throw Micah McFadden in there.
Yeah, he's the one that fits from that draft class. because he is a starter right now. And again, like I said in my success thing, prove that you're not just a product of playing next to Bobby Okereke in a Wink Martindale scheme.
An underrated one is Jason Pinnock.
That's a good one too, man. Like Pinnock going from the Wink Martindale scheme to this is a very different scheme for safety, right? We talk about safety as very much a mind position over athleticism, but the Wink Martindale scheme made it an athleticism spot. You're gonna have to do a lot more thinking, and Pinnock's never really had to do that much. He's never really had to do that at safety in his career. Played a couple games for the Jets a few years ago where that was an issue, and then in the Wink Martindale scheme the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, so I would guess outside of draft picks, I would say Pinnock, who has been a clear-cut starter the last 2 years. Now we could look at him at the end of the year being like, oh, whatever happened to him? And I hope that's not the case because I like Pinnock as a player.
Yeah, me too. All right, Justin, next question. I'd like to hear people's in the YouTube comments what theirs is on that.
Yeah, leave a comment. The question is, what player has the most on the line this season in terms of what direction their career is headed? So some good answers were Micah McFadden, the 2023 draft class, and Jason Pinnock. So leave your comment below. Kayvon Thibodeau, what? I'm mowing the air rant. Wait, hold on. I'm mow in the air rant.
Come on, dude. I'm mowing the air, Rand.
I'm mowing the air rant at Lim Jahee 99 when there's no spaces and things. That
reminds me, we got to figure out a Trailer Park Boy character for
our new weatherman. Yeah. As opposed to last year,
I was thinking maybe Trevor. He comes in late, but you've never watched Trailer Park Boy, so you have no idea what I'm saying.
I agree. And as opposed to last year, what can we expect in a Carmen Bricillo and a new running coach influence run game stylistically, personnel-wise, scheme, etc.? And then what do you expect out of the running back room? Yeah,
so the running back coach I don't think has much to do with it, but the Carmen Bricillo influence, I mean, you should see a largely gap rushing offense. Like I have some numbers. Like last year for the starting running backs for the Raiders, before Josh McDaniel was fired, they had 65% gap runs. After the firing, 40% gap runs. The year before, 68% gap runs. And in preseason for the Giants, it was 54% gap, where you want to do a little more zone because you don't want to show so much. So you're going to see a lot of guys pulling, double teams to the linebacker, linemen working down and then pulling in space. The Giants ran 61% zone last year, which to me is fucking insane what the offensive line they had, right? Where they lived off of like pin and pull and stuff. So you're going to see offensive linemen moving. And then the combo blocks, I think there's going to be an emphasis on the first level, right? Like, let's make sure we win the first level before we worry about getting to the second level. Like, let's win this block. Let's try and win this. Let's try and push this block into the second level. So I think you're going to see stuff like that. So guys not leaving early. And then, we've talked about it more than any show ever, but the emphasis of the fullback in the run game is something you're going to see out of it. And Singletary's kind of done 50-50 zone gap, so he fits in both. But I just think there's going to be more an emphasis on, really working combos on the first level and then, gap runs.
And then what do you prefer? Kind of what they did in 2022? There was a lot of pin and pull in 2022.
Obviously 22,
Yeah, but even like I like this year from the efficiency standpoint because you see how well the Raiders worked in those combo blocks. I like the potential and the idea of taking care of the first level, because even if you take care of the first level, if you're not breaking a big run, you're still keeping an offense on schedule with 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, and those are successful runs depending on down and distance, right? So stylistically, I'm not talking about results. I'm talking about stylistically. 2022 you really liked, and then compare that to this year. What do you prefer?
I like gap runs anymore. They're more fun to watch. Now, if you have the offensive line, be zone, right? Because it's hard to defend that because you just go off of what their defense is doing. The Giants this is frustrating me all over again. Like 2022, where their run game was top 5 in the NFL. It was majority gap runs. And then last year, it swung all way the other way for zone runs. So yeah, I prefer the gap ties runs. Now, if you're not good at it, right, teams can really key in on it, and they will play the puller and and really set you up. But that's what the Giants should be running. I don't think they have the personnel for a heavy zone team.
Right on.
And that's something that's on Dable, right? That was one of our biggest worries of Dable coming in. Is like, it's great to be multiple in the run game, but you need to kind of have an identity. And the Giants haven't really they didn't have an identity as a run game last year.
We thought we found it in 2022, and thought that we did, and then 2023, which was the worst. It was the worst. They could not run the ball.
Next question.
Next question is coming from Vince Moscar, at Vince Moscar. With Harrison Burton's win at Daytona, how does this affect his chances of reading an ad in 2025?
It affects it so well because now that he won, he's more desirable. You know what's desirable, Justin? DraftKings.
Yep.
With the football season kicking off, I'm so glad to be reading an intro and it's about football and not baseball. Makes me freaking so damn happy.
Woo!
With the football season kicking off, it's the perfect time to dive into the action with our partners at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $250 in bonus bets, plus 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. That's kind of crazy. Now, that's something we can all celebrate. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium after betting just $5. Stay in on the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings, which is the place to bet the touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code WORLD. Remember the promo code WORLD and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code WORLD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Put the thing here. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Do you want to know a bet that I'm going to be rooting for on Thursday when we're going to be streaming? I think I have a couple bets in for the first game, but one of them is to be Travis Kelce to score the first touchdown. I feel like it's an every year staple.
Yeah, the NFL would rig it for that.
Yep.
Actually, we shouldn't talk about rigging and betting.
Whoa.
Because that's not what happens.
Show Taylor Swift in the booth.
Oh, yeah. And we could just start arguing about that again.
Yep.
Never mind. Remember that thumbnail? Remember that title? All right, Justin, next question.
Next question is coming from Sean McCarthy. I don't know. I don't remember what thumbnail and what title. At S_Magooch.
Trying to get me to say it.
Since the signing of Adoree, is cornerback still your biggest team concern? I would say yes.
Is it?
Yeah, I would say the secondary. Like the secondary as a whole.
See, the safeties I'm not worried about. Even if I don't feel great about them, I'm not worried about them.
I'm worried about allowing big plays. That's what I'm worried about. I mean, let's not act like I think people are really trying to talk themselves into, well, Adoree was playing in the slot last year. No, he really was only playing in the slot like the first 2 weeks of the season.
No, that's a bullshit talking point.
That's a bad talking point. So he's not. The Wink Martindale scheme never fit Adoree Jackson. No, that's actually very, very false because 2022 was one of his best seasons as a cornerback one. I think Adoree Jackson is a scheme versatile player because he's an athlete and he's a veteran.
Yes.
Now, I don't necessarily know the terms that Shane Bowen and Adoree Jackson left on because the Titans cut him. And that's why he was a New York Giant in the first place.
Yeah. Now, the other side of that, the whole they cut him. He missed 13 games that year, right?
Right.
So, there's... Yeah, anyways.
But there is even some conversation... I don't know. There is, some conversation about Adoree not being fully happy with his role. I remember that being a talking point. He'll be more happy here. I don't know. So...
And that was when you could cut players when you picked up their fifth-year option. Now you can't do that anymore.
Right. So, the secondary as a whole, Bobby, is my biggest team concern in allowing big plays. It still remains my biggest team concern.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think it's what's the weakest position group?
Is
it the position group that has the best player on the team?
In Dexter
Defensive
Lawrence?
tackle.
Yeah, if you really want to get specific and not do you put interior defensive line? Do you lump it in with the front seven?
I don't. I put defensive tackle on its own position compared
Because
to edge.
I think the fact that you have Bobby Okereke behind Dexter Lawrence and behind that bad interior lineman group, and then you also have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, the hope is that it helps out that weak spot. I hear you though, but I wouldn't. If Dexter Lawrence is on the field, I'm not considering interior defensive line my biggest team concern.
Yeah, so that's the other. So it's not your biggest position of concern, even though I would like. Okay, defensive tackle is the weakest group of like starters and backups, which again is crazy because Dex. But yeah, I think it's because of that cornerback spot though, right? Because it is a very much a you can get killed here. When you lose here, it's noticed big. Yeah. Right? When you lose as a 5 tech, it's not really noticed all that much. It's up to us to go watch the film the next day. Does anyone else remember Ryder Anderson in 2022 getting pinned down like 6 yards? No, only we do.
Yeah, if my 5 tech, number 2 interior defensive lineman allows a run of 7+ yards, it's not great, but I'm living with it. If my secondary is allowing consistent plays of 20+ yards, like Shane Bowen's defenses have in the past, that's way more of a team concern than that.
And
than the first.
You're also one Adoree Jackson injury away from being back where you were.
Yeah. I mean, you can say that about any position, though. Like,
can I say something with this? Because this had my blood boil. Because Ronan tweeted it out and other people. The idea that Nick McCloud, because he had better statistical year and limited action last year, is better than Adoree Jackson to me is fucking nuts.
Say that again?
The idea that, like, when you look at Nick McCloud's stats are better than Adoree Jackson's last year on a per snap basis from Nick McCloud's limited playing time. They're better. And the PFF grades are better. The idea that, McCloud is a better player than Adoree Jackson last year.
I'm not gonna go that far.
That is so nutso to me. That is like, you're taking a small sample size. I'm gonna go find some offensive lineman who had like great efficiency numbers and be like, he's better than Andrew Thomas.
Now, Adoree Jackson may not be that great. Because also let's even include
but he's still better than Nick McCloud at outside cornerback.
Let's also include the fact that, what has he been doing this offseason, Bobby? Do you know?
Getting strong.
So I'm not going to...
Here's the thing. I don't care. He's still better than Nick McCloud as a full-time starter at outside corner.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, that's what it's not that I'm saying Adoree Jackson's going to come back as some stud. It's like, this is a big upgrade over what we had. Yeah. Even if Adoree Jackson has the same year last year, it's a big upgrade over Nick McCloud. No offense. Yeah. Maybe McCloud could battle for nickel. I'm not opposed to that. I think he can have some success there.
McCloud's going to be needed everywhere. So I like McCloud in the role that he is right now as this super utility backup at slot, super utility backup on the outside, and then even, hell, I sometimes even feel better than him. I feel better about Nick McCloud in certain situations than I do about Isaiah Simmons. So.
All right, next question.
And everybody loves Isaiah Simmons. Next question is coming from Alex Sanso at Sanso_Alex. If the Giants... Is this... Oh, yeah, this is the next question. If the Giants are in the same spot to draft a QB this upcoming April, do you think they'll read an ad instead? I certainly hope that they do, because then they'll make some money and they'll make some good decisions, like this good decision, to get some Factor. Ooh, that's right. We're back with Factor. Fuel up with Factor. Fuel up for football season with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for the fall thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian-improved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. And I have to say, I've said this over and over again, Factor has changed my life. I get back from a busy day in New York City where I'm doing a whole lot of nothing, and New Jersey Transit takes 2 hours and it's a pain in my ass and I'm tired and all I want to do is just snap my fingers and have a meal in front of me. Well, guess what? With Factor, and I could do that. And it's really freaking good. Not just saying it. I've spent my own hard-earned money. Factor doesn't always give me stuff. I've spent my own hard-earned money on Factor because it's that damn good. Head to factormeals.com/Giants50, and it's good protein too. And use code Giants50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month. That second part is new. That's code Giants50 at factormeals.com/Giants50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Check the link in the description, click it, and you'll be glad you did. Thank you.
Glad you did. Another thing, did you see the good job by the reporters? Because Brian Dable will never, ever rule out someone from punt returning. Like, you guys, like, you think John Michael Smith might get some snaps at practice at punt returning? But it's a possibility of asking, will Adoree Jackson get some work at punt returner?
And he just can't. He doesn't answer the question.
Well, he says this. It's everything's an option. Everything's in place. Like just say no. And if you say yes, then you're going back on your word. It's like they're trolling you. They're doing that to tweet it out. So they're gonna be like, oh my God, he hasn't learned his lesson. Even though Adoree didn't return any. Did Adoree return any punts last year?
My guess is no. No, you know what? Maybe he did.
Because
are you looking it up?
They'll have him catch him in practice because they have everyone like they have Darius Slayton catch. But no, I don't think he did because even remember Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton were catching punts.
Yeah, against Washington. Punt returns.
No, zero punt returns last year.
Nope. Yeah, he had 3 returns for 5 yards in 2022. How did that go?
Bad.
Death.
Lost games. All right, next question.
Next question. This is our last question. Neon at Matthew with a lot of numbers afterwards. I'll read them. At Matthew 367-22499. What did you think of Cam Ward?
So, I can't say Miami's back until they win more than a few games, Justin.
Sure.
Because I know it's a totally different team, but I just can't say a team that is a national championship contender when they lost to Rutgers in the Pinstripe Bowl. Yeah, I know it's not the same players. But Miami is back. I didn't watch a lot of college football this weekend. I really basically watched Miami game, the end of USC LSU. It is very funny, Justin, how quickly we went from this is a bad quarterback class to I think there's 12 first rounders at this point in the quarterback class.
1 week.
It took 1 week. It took 1 week of all the people yelling at us last year about you gotta take McCarthy this year because next year's class sucks. To be 12 of them. This may be a record year.
I don't think that will last, by the way.
No, it doesn't last. Week one is the ultimate.
Yeah.
Week 6, you have about 7 guys who are in that conversation, and then the end of the year, it's all right. There's
what was Shedeur Sanders playing in FCS school?
Well, it was North Dakota State. Shout out Jake
which
Grubis.
Is good.
Yeah, I mean he looked good. I'm not saying he didn't. Actually, I watched that game too because that was on Thursday. But I was just like, we really. This is the quickest ever. I think because there's no consensus this year, it's going to be amazing because it's just going to be are you someone who just loves QBs, just any QB, or are you actually just evaluating this shit?
You see Dylan Raiola?
Dude, it's ridiculous how he just looks like Patrick Mahomes. By the way, I clicked on a 2027 mock draft in June. He was the pick for the Giants. He balled, right?
Yeah, I mean they them and my Nebraska's my school, and then Rutgers is my school too. So I mean he's 19 years old. He was born in 2005. Tony Stewart won the championship in 2005, climbing the fence. I remember that year. 19 years old. This kid did.
Oh, and Arch Manning. Arch Manning doing that little celebration. I was like, shit, I'm trapped.
Yeah.
And
Nebraska played a small school, but they won big and they look good, and Rutgers took care of business too, and. Yeah, it'll be Dylan Raiola and Arch Manning competing for Brian Dable's love and affection in 2027. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Honestly, I'm going to be unbiased. I'm a Dylan Raiola guy just because I saw that 2027 mock draft. And I watched the Arch Manning spring game, and I was like, I don't know if this looks like a first-round quarterback to me. I'm just going to say it. But we'll see. He can grow. What you don't realize is these guys can grow. Let it play out, Justin. All right, that's an episode. We'll be back on Friday for a friggin' preview pod with our new weatherman. I'm more excited for the new weatherman than the game, right?
No, I don't think so.
We've been teasing this excitement, or this announcement. No, so I'm gonna be flying on Thursday morning too. That's just gonna be 3 hours of like no internet and just like stewing and like let's murder the Minnesota Vikings
on an airplane.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be pissed off. So get excited for preview pod.
Check out JM Football Wednesday at 4 p.m. Captain Morgan Fantasy Football Draft. The more people that are there, it'll look great for me, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Like I have some stuff planned on how to not just make it a regular fantasy football draft that you watch and get bored by. Hopefully, I have some ideas on how to make it a little bit exciting. It'll probably be the last fantasy football draft that you watch. There's some fun prizes on the line for first place, and also the loser gets something as well. And Thursday night, Bobby and I will be watching the Ravens-Chiefs game on JM Football. We'll be live streaming, so come hang out with us.
It's actually the Chiefs-Ravens game. All right, we'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.